Hey everyone, Rob from Southgate Media Group here. Before we get started with this podcast, we have a quick message. If this is your first time checking out the show, we love that you found us and we really hope you enjoy it. What we have to say is for the subscribers. If you enjoy our shows, would you please donate to help keep these going? We don't want to have to put traditional ads on these shows, but this does cost money. So we really do rely heavily on donations. To make a donation to the show, please go to our website, www.southgatemediagroup.com. Go to the page for the show, and in the upper right-hand corner is a donate button. It takes you right to PayPal, and you can donate whatever amount you want. Thanks a lot for listening, everybody. And now, on with the show.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Live at the Blue Box. We are going to do an Input Junkie satellite tonight. Let me do a little setup on that. The way it normally works when we do an Input Junkie is we talk about our favorite inputs for the week. And the input can be movies, TV, food, whatever, comics, books. Whatever you put in is an input. Then we have this thing called Input Junkie satellite that stemmed out of people writing into us and saying, how would you introduce Star Wars to your kids? What are your favorite horror movies? You know, things that were a little bit more pointed than us just gabbing about stuff. And then we started doing interviews. And tonight, we are so excited we have an interview live here at the Blue Box.
Woo!
We have blogger extraordinaire, Geek Girl Chicago.
Hi! Yay!
Lauren,
Yes.
before Martha's going to do a lot of the questioning and stuff here, but before we do that, I just want to say I met Lauren 2 years ago at C2E2.
Yeah.
And when I met her, it was funny. I had no idea you were Geek Girl Chicago.
And we were a year away from our podcast company. We didn't exist
We were a
then.
year away from our podcast company. I met her the day that I met the other podcasting network, and I said, yeah, I'm going to start podcasting, and I'm really excited. And she was like, oh, I'm a blogger, and she gave me a pin for Molly. And
She has it on her jean jacket.
I know. Those are exclusive now. I don't make those anymore, so you hold on to it.
All right, we're holding on to that, Molly. Don't put it through the wash.
Right.
She was dressed like Rose Tyler.
Yes, from Doctor Who.
And that's how I also met Time Crash, which is a Doctor Who band that we have a
they're playing
relationship
next
with, too.
week,
They're
right?
playing in 2 weeks
Yeah, 2
on
weeks.
Music Under Glass. So very exciting. But I just wanted to say, it's so surreal that we weren't even doing this when we met 2 years ago, and here we are.
I remember that moment because I remember meeting you and you talking about this podcast network idea, and I went, that sure sounds nice. I hope that guy I'm never going to see again has a great life. And here we are.
Thank you for your honesty.
C2E2 is giant. Thousands and thousands of people are there, and who knew that I would run into you again?
It was so weird. I mean, I'm walking down the aisle, and you're Rose Tyler, and I'm like, oh, can I get a picture for my daughter? I mean, it was just so random.
I was so happy to be recognized, too. The Doctor Who costumes just are often mistaken for street clothes. You're just wearing... and it's like, I know that hoodie and that dye job in your hair. You're Rose Tyler. Oh,
Yeah, it was a good Rose Tyler.
Molly's trick is to always carry the screwdriver.
Yes.
Because if she has the screwdriver, they go, okay, which one are you? And then they'll, oh, Amy Pond or, oh, Clara, you know. So she just carries the screwdriver.
So smart, yeah.
A couple weeks ago, she did a cosplay here at the Blue Box of
Last week.
Clara.
No,
she was
that was
Clara.
a while ago. Okay, yeah.
And the way she did that, instead of having a sonic screwdriver, she carried the Yahtzee, the TARDIS, the Yahtzee Doctor Who that's a TARDIS.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be the little TARDIS from the episode with Peter Capaldi where it's the little tiny TARDIS.
Yeah.
When the TARDIS kept shrinking and then he had his
And
hand
and
coming
only
out
his
of
hand
it.
was,
out of it, yeah.
Yes. So she had that, and she's like, I'm Clara. And it was so funny because it was like, yeah, you obviously are Clara.
It worked. That worked very well.
All right. I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to just jump in when you need me. So,
Okay, give us a little bit of. Let's start by just give us a little bit of your background right now. Like, what do you do? What is Geek Girl Chicago?
Sure. Geek Girls Chicago is a blog, social media sort of personality that is through the Chicago Now Network with the Tribune, so the big newspaper in Chicago. And I write about 7 times a month about local conventions. I go to conventions and take cosplay pictures and do coverage. I'm a cosplayer myself, which means I dress up as the characters from comics and Doctor Who and anime and all those things. I interview celebrities. I've actually gotten to interview several of the doctors from Doctor Who, which you can read on the website. And I review products. So if there are geek-themed cosmetics, like Game of Thrones eyeshadows or things like that, I'll review those for women. And I just try to cover events that are happening in the Chicago area. So when I heard that Blue Box was opening, a year ago almost now, I came out here right when they opened and did an interview and took pictures and got some people to come out here.
Yeah.
Because people want to know what's going on in the area in geek culture. So that's
And they don't
what I'm
often
trying to
look
do.
all the way out to Elgin.
I
find
normally don't. No, I happened to catch on Reddit, I think. Someone had shown a picture of the logo. That's the only way I knew about it, and now I'm back.
Very cool. And are you originally from Chicago?
Yes. Sort
Okay,
of.
so you're not like you're not coming here going, oh yeah, I'm Geek Girl Chicago. I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding.
Like she's Canadian and she's
wanted her to panic a
infiltrated.
little.
Or-
No,
No, I grew up in the suburbs. I was
Okay.
born in Westchester and moved to the city 3-4 years ago. The city proper.
Okay, well, if anyone who is here or who is listening has any doesn't know about Chicago, anywhere that is within about 50 miles or so of Chicago is considered Chicago. The rest of the state is Illinois.
Right.
So we're, anyone in Elgin says, I'm from Chicago. Like, we're all from Chicago.
Right.
It's very far-reaching. We're not from Illinois. But,
Well, and really, like, Elgin is not that far. You take the train. What is it, like a half hour?
oh, no, it's like an hour. It's an hour.
You can tell I don't take the train, and
Yeah. It's that really fast train that Rob
I have a
imagines.
bullet
he's on.
train.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when you're drinking coffee, time matters not.
There you go. So have you always been a geek? When did you
Hey.
discover your inner geekdom?
Born from as early as I can recall having memories. I remember being a toddler with my Duplo Legos and building Star Wars characters out of 6 Duplos, and they were all identical because Duplos, they're giant.
Yeah, there's
There's
not a whole lot to work
There's no
with there.
detail work you can really do. So they all just looked like identical stick figures, but I was very possessive of that one is C-3PO and that one is Han Solo, and don't confuse them, even though they all look the same. And sometimes Han Solo's head was just the big eyeball one, but and so I remember, my parents specifically going to Taco Bell back when they had kids meals. They had Star Wars kids meals and getting me all the toys. So as early as I can remember having thoughts, I loved sci-fi.
Okay, so they fostered that in you.
Yeah, I mean, my parents were really good at just letting me be whatever I wanted. They said, "Oh, she likes Star Wars. Let's push that hard," and they were really supportive.
Now, were they geeks?
Um,
Was it like a geek household?
So
or?
they say no. They say no.
Shall we bust them out right now?
Well, I don't think they were ever geeks about comics. They were never geeks about sci-fi. But one of the big messages that I try to convey in my blog is that you can be a geek about anything. You can be a
Absolutely.
huge sports geek.
Yeah.
You can be a food geek.
It just means passionate.
Yeah, so my mom has watched the soap opera Days of Our Lives since 1985.
Okay.
And I would call her a giant geek for Days of Our Lives.
Absolutely.
But if you ever called her a geek, no.
Yeah.
I remember when I started doing cosplay, she would take me to Joann's or the craft store, and she'd get so intense, like we have to find the perfect button, and she'd get so focused on helping me. I'm like, Mom, you're a real cosplay geek. No. And so they would say no, I would say yes.
That's kind of how I am in our house because I wasn't raised at all in geek culture.
No, you were
at
a
all.
dork
I mean,
culture.
so far, yeah, I was a total dork. Yeah, but not at all. I was a snobby dork, but so
Then she
my
met the
gateway
cool
drug
kid.
was X-Files.
Oh,
And-
we're rewatching that on Netflix right
so
now.
I would sit there, and so we went to this X-Files convention, and so and I'm at home, and we were married and everything, but I'm saying, my mom goes, "Oh, you collect the cards?" I was like, "Oh, I do not collect the cards, and do not call me a geek." And so I've sort of always rallied, kind of railed against that too, like your mom. But now, of course, there's really no. I mean, look at that poster right there. Like, I cannot claim no.
She is
any longer
immersed in it at this
I'm
point.
immersed in the culture.
Welcome. Thank you for being here.
And she's also the one that has motivated us to go to more and more cons.
Yeah, oh,
Yeah.
I love
Because I love the
love
cons, but
Comic-Con
she
convention.
is
I love
like
Comic-Cons.
crazy for it.
Yes. So what was
But she
your
doesn't cosplay.
first convention? What was the first Comic-Con you ever went to?
It was not a Comic-Con. It was an anime convention.
Okay.
And it was Anime Central 2001.
Okay.
It was 2000 or 2001. My best friend and I argue over which one it was. I think probably 2001. And at that point, my parents were very against me going.
Oh.
The internet was a new and scary thing, and you were going to meet scary people.
Well, you did.
And don't. He was pointing at my husband. So they didn't want us to go. I was a freshman in high school, and so me and my friends had another mom who was more supportive essentially just sneak us to the convention. And I got in big trouble. One, because this mom made us all cosplay. So not only did we go to this con, which was forbidden, but we all dressed up. And then, through a miscommunication between me and this mother, I got separated. And so I was alone at the convention having the time of my life, and then over the PA system at the cosplay contest, they were like, where is Lauren? Your friend's mom wants to pick you up. And then my mom got called, and I got in big trouble. But I was hooked at that convention, and my mother would be very upset to know that I got in a car with a stranger dressed as Vash the Stampede that day to go to a McDonald's, and thank goodness he was a nice guy, because I could have been kidnapped. I was not being very responsible. But no, I had a great time, and once I came home and told my mother how happy I was and how much I felt like I fit in for the first time and how I met all these wonderful people, they were much more supportive with conventions, and I've been going ever since.
Fantastic. And that's actually what I love about the conventions is seeing people who, so many of them are on the outskirts of, in their high school or wherever they are, and they like things that aren't popular, and you go to these Comic-Cons. Well, now it's really popular, but when we first started going, the first one we did was back in '92, I think.
The first one
The
we
first one
did.
that we did, not you.
Yes. I would say 92.
The world started when I started going.
Right.
There weren't any before
No,
that.
no. I did one in like 80. Well, I did one with my dad. I did a sci-fi convention, probably 78. Because, boy, it might have even been before Star Wars.
Wow.
It might have been 77
we were two.
or something.
Toddler con.
Shut up, Lil.
It was cool because they were showing they were showing the 70s Time Machine movie, the movie Time Machine, the one from the 70s. They were showing it. It was like a big deal. Like, this just came out. And we sat there. Of course, my dad was like, "Can we go?" And I'm just like, "Oh no, it's so awesome!"
But what I love about them is that it's just the most welcoming, kind, passionate play. Like I go there and I just love everybody, and I love talking to artists. I love meeting people who do cool stuff and are following their passions and who are I love to love stuff. And so as I'm walking through, I'm like, I love that and I love that, and they're going, I love that too, and it's just such a tremendous community. And so we've raised our daughter going to them, and well, she's only 7, so we are raising our daughter to
Yeah.
go. But
Right.
but it's just Yeah, even on the last one, she brought a portfolio of her artwork and was showing all the artists, and they were going, "Oh, it's fantastic!" I'm like, "Oh, it's such, there's just no pretension really that I've experienced firsthand. I mean, I'm sure it's there, but
Lauren, you're a cosplayer.
Yes.
And I just read a thing where you were featured about your cosplay, which was so cool. Great pictures.
Oh, thank you.
Really cool. I liked what was said in the article because it was talking about it. There's such a controversy about cosplay where a lot of people have a misconception of it. And then there's that whole thing of like, oh, women in their things. And like, that's not what it's about. And that's not what it's about when we go to things.
No.
And
Right.
like, we are Cosplay as a group in Chicago that we have a relationship with. We love these guys. It's not about that. And I loved that article. I loved the people they featured. I loved when you were in that. So it was just really cool. But I had a question about you with cosplay.
Sure.
You mentioned your mom taking you to Joann Fabrics and getting your stuff. Now, Molly has learned how to sew.
Ooh, so
And-
much earlier than me. Awesome.
And she's into cosplay.
Yeah.
I was going to say, was that like a tipping point for you? Was it like, wow, once I started sewing, or were you that kid that like stapled things and taped things, or?
I did a lot of drawing and sketching when I was an anime kid. I watched a lot of Sailor Moon and Gundam Wing and Cowboy Bebop and that generation of anime when it first started coming onto
Sure,
Cartoon
sure.
Network, and I drew those characters like crazy. I even had my first website was a Sailor Moon fan character website where
Okay.
people could submit their
You were
own
a
Sailor
Sailor
Moon
Moon
characters
girl,
that they
okay.
invented, and we wrote fanfic about them together and like put all our art up there. And I think when I discovered sewing sort of became my medium of choice.
Interesting.
But up until that point, I was doing some drawing, a lot of fan work. Yes, Sailor Moon.
Okay. All right, cool. So
what is your favorite cosplay that you've ever done? Like, what's your favorite character
That
you
question
ever?
is so difficult because, okay.
Or you want to do like top 3?
I'll do a list for you. So, Rose Tyler from Doctor Who, I have the most Rose costumes. I think I have about a dozen Rose costumes.
Because I saw the one.
Well,
which
yeah,
was
and
great.
I've started selling them. I collect screen accurate Rose Tyler stuff, and it's worth a lot of money now. And so if
Wow.
I'm like, oh, I got a car payment coming up, who wants to buy a hoodie? Like, I have this collection, and it's getting smaller. But I must have a dozen of those, and I have a lot of great memories of actually being the character of Rose
Sure.
at children's libraries. I went to the Renaissance Fair with my friend as the 10th Doctor, and we pretended to be the characters.
That's
and people
awesome.
love that, and those experiences as Rose have been great. I got engaged in cosplay as Elizabeth from a video game called BioShock Infinite.
Please,
And
we know
I love
BioShock.
BioShock.
Yeah, and my husband was Booker, and I was Elizabeth, and we got
Nice.
engaged.
Well played, sir. Well played.
No,
Just
if you
one
love
life.
BioShock,
I
we
mean-
got engaged at the aquarium in
that's
Atlanta
awesome.
during Dragon Con, and so
Oh
it looked
my
like we were in
gosh.
Rapture.
you guys
You
totally
win.
just won life right
and
there.
Irrational Games was there taking pictures, the creators of BioShock, and they were so psyched that we got engaged. They gave us a bunch of merch, and they put us on their website, so that costume has a
Wow.
really special place in my heart. And then I would say finally Daenerys Targaryen from Game of Thrones. I have 2 Dany costumes. I'm probably going to get a third. I've also been Joffrey, which was fun. Someone dumped popcorn on me when I was Joffrey, so I stopped wearing Joffrey.
He's kind of a
switched to
hated
Daenerys.
character.
But I have a partnership with Lakeshore Beverage, and they're the beer distributor in this area that does the Game of Thrones beers.
Right.
And every launch party they do now, they hire me to come and be Daenerys and do. Last time we did a dragon scavenger hunt, so I hid my dragons around, and I host their costume contests. And so that's been
fantastic.
a blast too. So
Very
that's my
fun.
top 3.
Very cool.
That is awesome.
Thank you.
Now, so you said you grew up in Westchester.
Mm-hmm.
What was school like for you?
Ooh, school.
You don't have to out the school or
No,
anything.
so I
But
always
just for any of the kids that are here that might feel
Did you
like
have an
they don't
Evita keychain
necessarily.
that
No.
people brought up later and embarrassed you?
I do have the typical, unfortunately, like bullied story. So my grade school was very divided in terms of actually financial wealth.
Okay.
And so it was really like there was like the rich kids and there was the not so affluent kids, and I was in the not so affluent kids, and we got picked on a ton for not wearing brand name clothes and not having the coolest purse.
You kind of lived the movie The Outsiders.
Yeah, maybe. And so
The Social. You didn't see that one. That was.
I've
is
seen
that
it.
too old?
It's
Okay.
been, I mean, I probably read that while I was in this phase of my
Okay.
life. That was a long time ago.
That
and,
would have been what Martha geeked about.
The
was stuff
Social and
like
the Greasers.
The
Yeah.
Outsiders
Yeah.
and
and just,
Yeah.
you know, I've had this talk at panels a lot. I was really appalled at that age at what certain human beings are able to say to other humans, like how grossly they can exclude and insult and hurt. And it was a really difficult, particularly because I had a lot of jaw surgery in grade school and high school, and so physically I wasn't always the most attractive person, and people would, you know, really just claw into that.
Wow,
Really find that
really?
reason. Yeah. And so high school,
Horrible.
I was pretty much to myself because I had been so bullied in grade school, I didn't want to deal with it anymore. I don't really feel like I had friends that I really loved and cared about that were even in my school. It was college when I started doing improv comedy and joined the improv troupe that I really finally came out of my shell.
Met your people.
yeah, got
Yeah.
over it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not even that I met my people. It's just that, you know, I was making people laugh. I was making people smile. I got rid of my braces. I got contacts and started just feeling more confident.
Sure.
And between physically, like, liking myself a little bit more and having an audience, you know, approve of what I was doing, I was finally able to get over that.
So you got that confidence that you needed.
Yeah, and so, you know, the thing that I like to tell people, though, is that entire time, I didn't change what I liked and what I was about. I remember being made fun of for Sailor Moon, and I remember being made fun of because Star Wars is for boys and things like that. And I
Right,
just
right.
went, you already, like, make fun of me. You already
Yeah, so
hate
why
me.
not?
Like, why do I want to impress you? That's
Right.
lame. Back to watching the X-Files. And so
Right.
I grew up as a person who was true to what I liked. I always say
That's
be true
awesome.
to yourself. You know, as
That's
generic as that
fantastic.
sounds, I don't have a crisis of identity now. I've always been what I've wanted to be.
That's fantastic.
One of our, I want to bring this up. Yeah.
Thank you.
One of our
I'm turning red.
podcasters that does our Star Wars podcast, her name is Nikki, and very similar story. It's reminding me when I was listening to her on the first episode, and she was talking about how she was that Star Wars kid, and she's like, I remember like no one else was into it, but my mom taking me, and I'm this girl going, what are you kidding me? Star Wars is incredible. And here she is. She does Star Wars cosplay. She's part of the 501st.
Yeah.
She does all this stuff, and it's like, now she's on the podcast. She does an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. cast, and she does that's really cool.
Yeah, and
So-
I think that
Good for
once
you.
again,
Thank
it's
you.
also what the conventions bring to the table, because it allows people to be around other people that like what they like and who are embracing it and going, look at me, I'm dressed up too, and you kind of you know, especially before the internet and stuff like that, where you had access to
It was so much
build
harder to find
relationships.
those
Yes.
people. Yeah.
And I mean, now people can go on and you can find forums, you can find all kinds of stuff. But back before the internet, we didn't have access to all of those groups except at these conventions. And to be able to walk in there and go, oh my gosh, this one is all about Star Wars, and I can just walk in and everyone here loves what I love. And to me, that's what's so special about this community and what is so unique about it. So
Well, and what's awesome also is how diverse it is. I mean, it like when you said it could be about food, it can be about sports, it could be about anything. It really is. Like if you were sitting at C2E2 and you were like knitting up a storm, people would be like, right on.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like you're into that. You're geeky about that. It's all cool. I was at one of them when somebody came up with this idea to do like what was that show where they criticized what people wore, like not say yes
What
to
not
the
to
threat.
wear.
What not to
Yeah.
wear. Yeah, and they were saying, this person that was saying,
I should
do
be on
a-
that every week.
We should do it, yeah. And not as somebody telling people what not to
No,
wear, but
no,
as the
like,
example.
I am the prototype for
Yes.
what not to wear.
But they were saying, the first thing they said was, oh, you know, I could help cosplayers here by telling them what not to wear cosplay thing. And then immediately they said, But that's not the whole point.
Right.
And like when she said this, I was like, yeah, it's not. Because people show up. Like I saw a guy in a Superman outfit one time that I will never forget. It's burned into my memory because this guy should not be wearing a Superman outfit, but it was awesome. And he was glowing.
Yeah,
he
but
was
yes,
so happy.
he should then.
Yes, he
And
yes, he
that's what I'm
should.
going to say. That was what was so great there.
Own it, man.
Yeah,
Own it.
own it. It was awesome.
Yeah.
So, right on.
So, how did you get started blogging? Did you go to school? Were you a writer? Did you do something like? How did you end up with having this door open for you?
Really accidentally.
That's how the best things happen.
Yeah, you know, I happened to see on some social media outlet or some website somewhere, Chicago Now was pretty new at the time. There's hundreds of bloggers on Chicago Now at this time. But the Tribune was just starting their blog network, and they said, we need people.
Right.
Send us a pitch. And I had been consuming adult beverages and decided, yeah, I'll do that. And without really overthinking it, without really proofreading it, I just wrote a pitch and sent it. And within 24 hours, my boss and now good friend, Jimmy Greenfield, said, yeah, we have a lot of Cubs and Sox stuff. We have a lot of mommy blogs and real
Right.
estate. And like, we don't have a lot of what you're doing. So come on in. And now I'm doing it and got, I think, over 200,000 views this year, which was great.
That's
awesome.
fantastic.
And I mean, I've been doing it for about 3 years. They have great parties at Chicago Now. They have great classes for people who are just starting out and want to learn blogging strategy and SEO and how to run social media. So anyone who wants to write, please go to chicagonow.com because they'll give you the website, they'll give you the instructions, they'll give you the support.
Oh,
There's a whole
fantastic.
Facebook group where we all talk and like trade ideas and do guest posts for one another. And so it's a lot easier to do it with that community than if you just came up with it out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And so it felt like walking into the kiddie pool and just slowly wading into the deep end. It's not really a story. It's just try it, see what
That is
happens.
so cool.
Right, that's really
That's
great.
Awesome. So what are your favorite shows? And it doesn't have to be currently, but like what would be your top shows?
So you're talking TV shows.
Yeah.
TV shows.
You don't mean podcasts because those are clearly all ours.
I mean, I love your podcast.
This one right now, yeah.
So, obviously, Doctor Who. I have seen so much Doctor Who. Right now, we're watching The X-Files over again.
Oh, of course.
The X-Files, Elliot Serrano from Red Eye just asked his fans, what is the most influential TV show in your life? What TV
X-Files.
show shaped you the most? And it
Right
was
here.
X-Files. Dana Scully. I was like, yeah.
Yes.
I dressed up as Scully
Yeah, I was going to say,
this
you
Halloween.
definitely
you could
have
totally
to
be
cosplay
Scully.
No, that's Mulder.
Oh, and Mulder.
And
Yeah,
I'm Scully.
Wait a minute. Didn't I read one of your posts where you talked about how you got angry at other Gillian Anderson cosplayers? Yeah. That was a great article. Very funny.
We're not going to talk about how I have a jealous streak. But another show that I really enjoy that we were just watching last night is Adventure Time. It is a kids' cartoon that has a lot hidden in it for adults. And I've
One of our
seen-
podcasters writes for Adventure Time.
Wow.
Yeah, one of our
My
podcasters
God.
is
The
a
one who
writer on
does
there.
he does our Walking Dead
Nope.
podcast. Oh, I get it wrong every time. I'm
You
so
get it
sorry.
wrong every time. No, Scott writes.
Scott, I'm sorry.
Scott does Disturbed, which is an American
That was
Horror
the
Story.
Uh-huh.
He did Comrades last year, which is The Americans. Right now he's doing Fast Talkers, which is The Flash.
Wow.
And,
Yeah, that.
And
I don't know
yeah,
very much about
Scott
that
is
one.
I wanna talk
really
to him.
great guy. And what's cool is, like, because of him, like these other guys that work on Adventure Time like follow us and will write things, and I'm always like, oh, you guys are so awesome. What a great show.
Okay, so we interrupted you.
Yeah, no, just you obviously know how awesome it is. Great music. I mean, it's colorful, it's frenetic, it's fun. But then the backstory about the dark things that happened to the human
Yes.
race that are just around the edges for you to find in the background and in the art.
It's so cool.
And the story of the Ice King, Simon Petrikov, just makes me like get chills, no pun intended, and just get sad. We had a friend in town from Texas this weekend, and he had never watched it. And so my husband and I turned it on last night. We watched 4 episodes, and our friend fell asleep on the couch. He was not as interested as we were, and we're laughing, like watching it over again.
I hope you put him
can
next to
watch
a window and opened it because it's nice and cold.
I can watch it over and over and over again. Love it.
Does anybody else out here like Adventure Time?
Yeah, there's some hands.
Yeah, you know what? I love it.
I was talking to Molly earlier about My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic. We've
Yes.
seen all of that also.
Yeah, Molly is our daughter, by the way.
Yeah.
So you've got a little bit of a pony streak in you. Are you now? What did they call them? Oh, I almost
Brony.
said no. Pegasisters.
Pegasisters,
What
yeah.
did you almost call?
You know what?
Is it
There's
really
mixed
wrong?
company here. Yeah, because I get it
Appropriate?
wrong. I have another word that I use that I get wrong. It's not meant to be offensive,
Oh,
but
got
it is. So
Okay.
it's Pegasisters. I just because I can't remember what it's called and I always get it wrong. So
But-
let's leave it at that.
Well,
I'll tell you
our
outside.
One of our podcasters
My joke.
who's a major brony,
Yes.
he said that brony is the universal term. It doesn't mean male My Little Pony fan.
Right.
You could be a girl brony if
Yeah.
that's how you identified.
Unless you want to be a Pegasister.
So are you a Pegasister or a brony?
Oh, all of the above are fine.
Okay.
A Pegabrony.
Pegabrony.
Whoa.
That's Wait, you just blew our minds. Mark.
Yeah, there you go.
I think you've entered the spectrum.
What 3 things have been the biggest influence on your life?
Just things?
Anything.
What?
People, anything.
Yeah, that's a nice broad
Isn't
question
that a really
for you.
good broad question?
Well,
Jeez.
when
Take
we-
it however you want.
When we were talking about it, we were kind of trying to framework it like Input Junkie, where it's like, what are the big inputs that influenced you? But then Martha was like, you know what? I think we need to make it even worse for her and just open
whatever.
it
Because it
wide
could be a
open.
person. It could be 3 different random things.
Right.
You know, who knows? So
I
didn't
mean,
wanna
if I'm going chronologically, it's honestly stuff we've already touched on.
Star
When I was
Wars.
very small, it was Star Wars because that was pretty much all of sci-fi when I was a kid. That's all I knew was Star Wars.
Okay.
And I knew I wanted more stuff like this. Like, more spaceships. But Star Wars was first.
I say that every day.
And then
I disagree. No.
2 was
That's okay.
probably the X-Files
Okay.
because the X-Files was something I enjoyed at a pretty dark time in my life when I was pretty bullied and didn't have many friends. I had one friend who would watch X-Files with me, trade the X-Files comics, trade the X-Files VHS tapes, and just go nuts about the X-Files. And
Martha had to do that with me. I was her X-Files buddy.
I was so bad with X-Files. I was nannying at the time, and the little girl said to me, we were in the bookstore, and she says, "Oh, look, there are your friends, Mulder and Scully." And I was like, I have hit a low. I have hit a low. If she thinks that I had the magazine. I mean, anything they were in, I had to own. I have every book that was ever written. I read fanfic. That was the first time I ever even heard the words fanfic, but
that's where the term shipping came from.
Oh
was
my
the
gosh,
X-Files.
yeah.
But
And I
know-
learned not to read slash.
No.
I learned what all the
There are
fanfic
children
terms
here.
meant.
Right.
And I was like,
And there's
that's
me here, and I don't wanna
that's
hear
what I
about
don't
it.
want to read. Okay, we'll get off that now. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
I know that the X-Files was a permanent influence. This honestly happened just a couple of days ago. We were watching that episode where it's a vampire story, and Mulder and Scully are both unreliable narrators,
Oh
and they're
my gosh.
both
We
talking
just-
Luke
about.
Wilson.
Yeah.
And we just watched
Hello.
that one maybe a month ago.
Yeah,
We
did.
just watched this one. We just watched this. It's
and the
very
kid
fresh.
from Green Machine, he
This
was
is
in
the
it.
first time I'm talking about this on any podcast because
awesome.
it just
Here we
happened.
go. This just in.
And we were watching, Scully telling the story, describing her way of seeing events and how Mulder sounds from her perspective, and
Yes.
then vice versa.
Brilliant.
Yes, it's so great.
And-
And how poor Luke Wilson
Yeah.
sounds.
Depending on who
Depending
you're
on
talking
who,
to. And my husband and I were just watching this, and I don't remember what he said. He said something along the lines of, oh man, what a rude and awful portrayal of that poor Mulder. And I was, no, that was really an accurate portrayal of Mulder. Scully is really dead on with this one. And then the more we watched this episode, the more I went, your inflection is a lot like David Duchovny's. And my self-assured, stubbornness about current events is a lot like Scully's. Oh no, this is really real. And so I realized, I think it might have shaped the person I am in a big, huge way.
Absolutely.
And then, if we're getting off of fandom, I think number 3 is probably living in the city of Chicago, because there's so much to do and so much to see in Chicago. The amount of conventions
It's
the amount
crazy,
of
isn't
the
it?
amount of
Staggering.
specialized things you can consume. I mean, there's a Doctor Who cafe. You can go see
That
a
we're
Doctor
sitting
Who
in.
band.
Yes.
Yeah. If you want
who will
to
be here in
go
a couple
to
weeks.
the Game of Thrones beer launch event and dress up like that. I mean,
Yeah.
you can whatever you love and whatever you are in like Chicago allows you to do that just hard, like as hard
Yeah,
as you want.
arguably the best retro arcades are here.
Yeah, we have headquarters, we have Emporium, we have Logan Arcade.
Ghost Gamer.
Retro,
Yeah,
Retro Underground.
Galloping Ghost.
Yeah, Galloping
Underground
Ghost, that's what it is.
Retrocade. I've written about both of those. I know both of those owners. They're awesome.
Well,
Yeah.
and the thing about Chicago that's different than some of the other major cities is Chicago is really unpretentious, and we're under the radar, and so there's a lot more freedom with that than when you think everybody's watching you and you have to be trendsetters. We're just back here going, no one's paying any attention to us. We could do whatever we want.
I noticed
So-
Chicago, when you see top 5 cities for geeks in the United States, it's never on there.
Isn't that weird?
but
and-
because we're hiding.
And
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be anywhere
we have
else.
Chicago Comics here. That is like the best comic store.
We have so many comic shops.
And
I mean,
they're good.
We have to have 20, 25.
Yeah,
I
like
bet-
Graham Cracker.
Graham Cracker's
Great
my
store.
favorite.
I was just
Chain, yeah.
in out here, Dreamland Comics.
Oh no! Oh yeah. Oh, yeah,
Which
it's my favorite.
Dreamland, she's been there for 20 some years. Before that, it was Moondogs, which was the staple here. You probably weren't born when Moondogs was around. Most people here probably weren't. But then it became Dreamland, and now she owns this. And I mean, I took Molly there. It was awesome. And you can tell when you're in a hack comic shop and when you're in a great one. And there are great ones here in Chicago.
Have you done? Oh yeah.
Yes.
That's
yes.
my
Oh, yeah, it's
personal
great.
favorite.
I do want right now to shout out my friends at Chimera's Comics. They're out in LaGrange,
Oh,
and
okay,
they
we
have
haven't been to
they have a podcast called Caffeinated Comics that I've been
Oh,
on a
yeah,
couple
yeah.
of
I
times.
know them.
You know
yeah,
what? I
John
just
Clark
saw that
and
today. I didn't
David
see that you were
Redfield.
on it.
Yes, I've been on there 2-3 times, and I wanted to comment on them because you're talking about how Chicago's so unpretentious and so supportive. My husband has a podcast called Our Fair City, and it's going into its 6th season. It is a
Awesome.
post-apocalyptic science fiction funny podcast with zombies and mole people and
Our
all sorts of
favorite.
stuff. But
we're all about it.
the reason I point out Chimeras is because they're donating to the auction for the season 6 launch party just $200 worth of comics and gift certificates and
Awesome.
hoodies. And we
Awesome.
just because they're nice people and we just asked. And so these comic shops are not only great in the selection that they offer and the things that they have, but they're just run by the sweetest people.
Absolutely.
They
Heaven.
really are.
Absolutely. Yeah, on Free Comic Book Day every year, we take Molly to a few different ones, and we always have to hit Oh Yeah, because she is obsessed
Yeah.
with them. She loves all
Well,
of the
they're cool because
all
they
the
always have their
illustrators.
bullpen because they put out their own
Oh.
books.
Yeah.
They always have
And
their bullpen,
she
and we go
goes
right down the line
crazy.
and meet all the artists and the inkers and.
Oh, she just loves,
great.
and it always makes her explode with her art.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
just like
and
any
as long as we're
Comic-Con
talking
does.
Free Comic Book Day, we always make sure that we do a lot of promotion for it. Tell a lot of people. We put it all over our personal Facebook and our business and everything. But we always tell people, buy a comic when you're there, too. You know, it's great that you're getting the free comic, but show these guys support because it's their Black Friday. And it's where it can put them in the black. So, yeah, comic book stores in Chicago rock. They're just
Yes.
the best.
Agree.
Okay, well, now we've done our Chicago love.
Yay!
We did, yeah.
And we have great food here, too.
Yes.
Oh, we can't even
Because we've
begin
lived
there.
elsewhere, and I'm telling you, there's good food out other places, but there's nothing like the food here.
I'm spoiled
Not just Blue
by
Box, but Blue
having
Box rocks.
having Grubhub, the app where you can just
Yes.
see hundreds and hundreds of restaurants and just have them deliver.
Yep. Amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have anything that you want to talk about, or
That I want to talk about.
anything that you want people to know, or that you want to promote, or that anything you want to?
I can mention a couple of upcoming things that are going to be featured in my blog.
Cool.
Every week I try to do, the winter's a little slower, I try to do this Geekend, which is what's coming up in the Chicago area. And what's coming up this Geekend is Improvised Star Trek is returning to Chicago. So if you want to see improvised episodes of Star Trek at I.O., come on out. They're wonderful guys. They're so funny. My friends, the Nerdalogs, who are a comedy group in Chicago that do monologues about their own geeky experiences, they have a new show opening this weekend.
Very good.
The Our Fair City launch parties the weekend after that. And finally, check out my blog in the next couple of days. My day job is the Museum of Science and Industry.
Our favorite.
And there was a dog, a pit bull mastiff mix, a giant dog that was abandoned at our museum.
What?
And we're trying to find that dog a home. So if you check out my blog, you can get all the information about the puppy and help us find a home, a forever
As
home
I
for
look
this
at
dog.
Rob, as I look at Rob and go, oh, Rob.
Yeah,
say
so
no.
the dog
No.
is at the Naperville Humane Society, and so I'm going to post information about that. So if you want to see
Very
my
cool.
blog, please go to chicagonow.com and search Geek. I'm also Geek Girl Chicago on Facebook and Twitter. Let's be friends.
Well, and if they Google Geek Girl Chicago,
Oh, yeah,
it'll
first
come
thing.
up. Yeah. So, all right.
Yeah,
Well,
I can't
excellent.
recommend that enough. I love the articles, and it's been so great getting to know you, and I'm just so happy you came out here. This is awesome.
We're having
It
a
really
great time.
means a
Thank
lot.
you.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you so much.
Is that it for?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Well,
All
thank
right.
you so much.
Well,
I've
thank
had a
you,
great
Lauren.
time.
And let me just wrap it up. You can find past episodes of this at our website, which is www.southgatemediagroup.com. We've got all the social media also, and when I think of it, when I see it, I usually share and retweet your things. And now that I've got these other comic stores on my radar, I'll start looking at them
yeah.
too.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
That's so funny because just today I saw that other podcast, and I went, oh, this looks interesting, so I'm going to check them out. I didn't know you were on there, so
Yep.
I'll have to listen. And we'll also check out your podcast. And
Do you do panels at any of the conventions?
I do. I do, and I have one coming up. It's Capricorn, at Capricorn in February, honey? Yeah, Capricorn's in February. We've been producing an audiobook for a local author, and so we're doing a panel on audiobook production at Capricorn. Nothing about blogging, but we will be there.
And what is Capricorn?
It's one of the most long-running kind of just sci-fi fantasy
Okay.
geek conventions in the area. I think it's up in Wheeling, but it's in February.
Really?
Capricorn, look it up.
All right, we'll look that up.
Okay, yeah,
Oh,
we'll have to check it out because
There's the literature.
we do panels at like Wizard World and C2E2 and stuff
Yep.
like that.
Yeah,
we're
we're
gonna
doing
be
Madison next month.
Yeah, we're doing Madison, but because we
just-
do these live events, we're finding that panels are really easy for us to do.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to try and tap into some of these. Like we just saw, what was the one that just happened at KillCon or I'm getting it wrong.
KillCon.
The one you were just at. the one that looks like they might
Collision Con.
Collision Con. That's way different than Kill
It is
Con.
totally different.
Yeah, how was Collision Con?
Collision Con was quite small,
Okay.
but the idea behind Collision Con was that it's where East and West collide, so they do anime and they do Western comics and art.
Okay.
And I took at Collision Con, and then 2 weeks before that, Con Alt Delete, I just did my usual cosplay coverage. I love taking pictures of cosplayers, giving them my business card so they can see their photo later.
Sure.
I didn't do any programming there, but someone just brought over the Capricorn flyer, February 12th through 15th at the Westin Chicago North Shore in Wheeling. That's what I'll be doing
Excellent.
some programming for you guys.
Very
And if you
cool.
ever want me on a panel, just ask, because obviously I love to talk.
We will.
Well,
Because
we
we're
will
going to be
definitely
doing a
ask.
lot of them.
Woo.
Yes.
We did Wizard World of Chicago in August. We had a panel.
We
and
actually-
we picked up all the all these podcasts.
One
Yeah.
of our podcasts or one of our panels that we do is called Podcasting and Journalism. And it's just
That
about
would be perfect.
geek
Yeah.
blogging and podcasting. So next time we will definitely see if you're available.
Look me up.
All
That would be
right.
awesome. Well, thank you so much again.
Thank you.
That's it, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to Input Junkie Satellite. Thanks again, Blue Box.